As a software manager, you want to get some A players in your development team. You want to find somebody that has solid experience. But it is difficult to gauge experience and skill set when you've only got a few minutes in an interview to ask questions. Hello, my name is Benson George, and today we're going to figure out how to ask the right interview questions to technical candidates that want to join your dev team. So here's what usually happens. Many managers try to throw a whiteboard question at the interviewee. This supposedly gives the candidate a chance to show off their technical chops. In reality, these whiteboard sessions rarely measure the critical thinking and reasoning skills necessary to be a top-class dev. There is a better way to craft questions that can give you a good sense of someone's technical ability. Now, before you even start to ask questions, you have to have the right mindset when interviewing potential technical candidates. Approach the interview process by having a conversation with them. The goal is to draw out the best in the candidate being interviewed, not intimidate them or get into a contest over which technology is better. Next, make sure you have a concrete idea of the specific development position that they're applying for. If they're a front-end developer and you're used to working with server-side code, make sure you have someone in the room that can talk CSS and HTML. Now that you're approaching this with the right attitude and you know specifically what they're applying for, let's start creating questions revolving around the following topics. Number 1, make sure they know more than one technology in their area of expertise. Continuing with the example of the front-end developer, it's not enough to know just CSS in 2017. They need to bring more than that to the table. Experienced front-end developers need to know CSS, Sass, Bootstrap, templating languages, and also JavaScript. These technologies work together to bring the view layer of an application to life. And if the candidate only knows one tool or technology, and is unable to hold even a conversation about how several industry standard tools work together, red flags should start to wave in your head. Number 2, find someone who understands multiple layers of your application. Developers that have a complete mental model of all the layers of your application domain is an amazing find for your team. This understanding separates them from the rest of the pack. They know the right questions to ask when they get stuck. In a team environment, this also helps when trying to solve a big problem as a group. Now, in order to test this of the technical candidate, ask questions that take into account their knowledge and experience of something outside of their specialty. Number 3, find someone who is comfortable on the command line. In this day of fancy IDEs and push-button user-friendly tools, if you find someone who can work with the command line, chances are you've come across a good developer. The day will come when they have to SSH into a remote server to tinker with that line of production code or configuration, and if they don't know a standard tool like Vim or Emacs on the command line, well, they're stuck. If the candidate is not comfortable dropping into different kinds of environments like this, it's not a deal breaker, but be prepared to give them training on this as soon as they come on board. Number 4, find someone who can debug an application well. This is one of the important ones. I remember when I first started at my first software gig, I knew all about object-oriented programming and all the latest design patterns. I thought all this academic knowledge somehow gave me an edge at building good software. What I did not have was the countless of hours of practical experience that comes only with working through bugs out of an application source code. The skill of debugging is not something that can be taught to someone at school effectively. It's a skill that only comes with time and experience. In fact, possessing the skills of a good debugger is one of the highest indicators of a great developer. So what kind of questions should you ask them related to debugging? Well, a really simple exercise that I do is present them with a scenario where a particular error was provided to them and ask them how they would go about debugging it. Encourage them to be as detailed as possible and keep it conversational. As an interviewer, you're watching to see if the candidate reaches for the right tools and also reaches for them in the right order. And now number 5, the last piece of advice. The last piece of advice to determine if they're a good technical candidate to potentially bring on board is to see if they have a good handle on a continuous integration setup. Now, what do I mean by that? Usually when teams of developers work together, they have some sort of way to test and to deploy code. And nowadays, they do it instantaneously, or they should be doing it instantaneously. So the days of only deploying code once every 3 months or 4 months, all that stuff is long gone. The reason why you want to ask them in this topic is twofold. Number one, you want to see if they understand collaborative concepts such as version control systems, branching and merging, resolving conflicts. The second reason is you also want to figure out their past experiences when working within a team of people focusing on building one singular product. Knowledge of a continuous integration process would force developers to think about the larger body of code and also how to navigate around work their colleagues have also produced as well. So find someone who has a good idea, a good big picture of how a development workflow process should look like. So that's it. Those are the 5 tips to discover a top-class developer among the rank and file. I hope that you can use these tips to find someone who will crush those team goals. If you like this video, please hit the like video button and subscribe to this channel as well. You can also follow me on Twitter at BensonGeorge. Until next time.